All right, folks. Called up Chris this morning. He's like, come on by. He's going to get one of these Daniel deceivers.
See if we can stop it from spinning here.
There it is.
Get a little better look at it here.
Beautiful.
It's what his rendition is of a greenback out there. Got little scales on the side, a little flash. It's got a really pretty wobble. We're going to see if we can come over here and get some action on it. Over here at my canal. Got a really nice side-to-side wobble. I can't see why they wouldn't just pound this thing. I mean, it looks beautiful. Bill likes to troll with these things a lot, but he says he does find himself casting them. Wow, what a nice flash on that thing.
Yeah, it does. I saw that coming up. Nice glitter flash.
Nice.
Well, all the baits that he produces are really nice. They're all unique and just work well for aggressive fish, whether they're redfish, bass, snook, trout. They just work.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's them years of being an actual fisherman that teach you some of the things that we're looking for out here. That'll make you a better lure builder. Look at that thing work. That thing looks beautiful.
Yeah, nice shiny wiggle.
I've paid for some Rapalas and some of those Lucky Crabs and things like that. You're talking $15, $18 baits that don't have that nice wobble like that.
Oh yeah.
It must be that lip. It really must be that lip. That thing just, look at that.
Yeah, nice action, and as dirty as the water is, I can see it flashing underneath the surface really nicely.
Watch out, folks. You know what happens when we start talking about how nice the bait is. Boom. Well, Bill came out here, one cast, boom, nails one up. I thought I put it on video and had it on flash picture, so I took a bunch of pictures of it. I'm not the video expert, folks.
Well, Chris has been playing with the GoPro, and it takes a little while to get used to them. You know, a lot of different options in the GoPro. Pretty cool camera, but you do need to take a lot of time to learn the camera, set it up, install software, a lot of stuff. But pretty cool, like everything. Nice action.
You know what? It has a great picture, so once we do learn how to do this,
yeah, the video is beautiful. It comes standard set up, at least the white one, the Hero 3. I think it was 930, 960.
And would you set it up to the 1080?
I set it up to the 1080, which is definitely way better video, but it does suck up a lot of the battery, and that on top of the Wi-Fi connection definitely sucks up a great deal of battery. So if you're gonna set it up for high definition video and get the Wi-Fi, you definitely may want to get an extra battery or something that has a little more.
What's the other camera that we're?
The Drift is the one we're sending out. Chris got his Hero 3, the GoPro, for his birthday, but we're sending out the Drift camera, which is a great high definition remote sports camera.
Like a jerk bait.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Easy to use. It's got the wrist interface, so you can just hit a little button and start recording. So that's pretty cool with the Drift. You don't have to actually pair it. There's a nice hit. See that?
Something tore it up.
We're talking about cameras and catching fish.
You know, fishing's more fun than cameras, if you ask me.
Well, right now, you know what? All this fresh water's flowing through here, and Chris is on the downstream of a lot of these freshwater estuaries that flow out into the.
A lot of junk in here.
A lot of garbage, but the fish love the junk.
Look at this, watch this flash out. I don't know if you can see that right now. Look at that thing pause and come back to the surface.
Oh yeah.
Just like when you're fishing a square bill, how when it hits something and it has that slow wobble back up to the surface. Nice. This kid's gonna get over here and stomp these baits down. I got the kids over here fishing every day now. They're so hooked on fishy fins, they can't even stand it.
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's just getting out and fishing. Way better to sit out here and fish than sit in front of an Xbox or the TV, and get out here, hike through the woods a little bit, stomp down some weeds, find a nice pond, and fish your life up. It's just beautiful out.
I find myself fishing this bait quite a bit this week. I'm gonna take it on up to Shell Creek Dam and up in that area this week and see if I can get some of those big agitated snooks where those spillways and stuff are going on.
Oh yeah. Well, you're taking me with you, so. I've been saying it for a month now. I want to go freshwater fishing up there, so. Oh, you get him? Ah! Uh-oh.
We got something.
What do you got, an alligator or a turtle?
We got something here. Please, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels.
Did you catch an alligator?
I've got something floating down the stream as well.
Oh, is that right? Caught a tree?
Yeah, something's floating. I'll be out there diving, folks.
Remember what he said, tie a float to it and then come back to it with a boat.
Well, I know where it's at. I'll go over and get the boat right now. Yeah, there's a tree limb down in there.
Yeah.
When I had to tie on that weak leader too.
Yeah, that's right, damn it. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break and we're going to dig this lure out because it's just not worth losing. And we'll be back. Oh, it's coming?
It's coming.
Chris is going to pull the whole tree with him.
This tree's coming up to the surface with me, buddy. Hey, I didn't build this slide for nothing.
Phew! Yeah, that is a pretty good branch you got.
It's a tree limb, look at it. Probably why those fish have been sitting out there.
Yep.
Sitting on the top of it.
All right, we're going to dig this out and we'll be right back. Grab this hot water.
You want to film me jumping in? I'd send it that way right there. Is that where you got it filming?
Yep, yep. All right, let's see what this is.
My 65-pound test.
I'm playing with one of Ernie's Impacts from Impact Lures. Do pretty good with it, not too bad. I've only fished it a few times, but had a pretty good time, so let's see if I can catch something
right
other than
back,
Chris.
Right back. Grab me a snack. Now if my lure gets caught in the tree, down under a bush, whatever, I can put this around my line, go down the thing, and bring that lure back to me. So let's try this here.
Let's see what he's got going.
Let's see if we can actually round the thing down here and get that white.
There it is, the Lure Retriever.
That's right, folks.
Awesome.
Don't leave home without it.
20 bucks back in your wallet.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, look, I'm facing this way, so I'm gonna try to cast a line that way too. What the hell?
Heck yeah.
Let's see.
It's a nice thing to have. Wow. Sure enough, the leader wasn't what was gonna bust, was it?
Right. Well, folks, Chris invited me over to do a little fishing this morning, so we came out to his house, hit the lake out here, beautiful out, kind of overcast, a little bit kind of humid, but still beautiful.
Normal Florida weather.
How do you usually do out here? Now, we fish out here, you know, if I come over to Chris's, I always talk him into coming out here because it's just a great little lake, but how do you usually do out here?
Well, this is hometown, and it's where I experiment with a lot of my stuff, so that way I can see what lures are working and how to work it and how to slow it down and stuff. But there's quite a bit of fish in this area. The kids are over here fishing almost every day, having a good time all day, keeping out of everybody else's hair.
That's the way to do it. And I'll tell you what, this whole little lake area flows out from 9 Mile on the back of Northport, where all those, you know, all those flood canals all flow out into Charlotte Harbor. So he gets a lot of water that flows through here, especially this time of year when we have those afternoon rains. And I know a few weeks ago we were out here, he was using that glass minnow by Daniel's Deceivers, and caught a beautiful bass, like second, third cast, just beautiful. And then I guess you said Bill came out here. And
Bill came out with his
Mr. Daniels himself.
Yeah, with his 702, that the green color, the 02 color, was probably one of our favorite colors right now that we promote. And bang, first cast, nice 5.5 pound bass, sweet.
Well, you know, the color is everything right now, and I've always said, I know Chris has always said that, this time of year when you get this fresh water flowing out of the estuaries into Charlotte Harbor, you start getting that brackish,
Coffee.
really
Tea,
coffee, dark
coffee
tea,
tea.
yep. And even when you get a little bit closer, it gives a green tint to it too. But when you use those chartreuse, the greens, the copper green colors that mix together,
They can see them.
it seems to work.
You can key in on them. You can't see this far in front of your face. So, I mean, you know, when you've got about a 1 foot visibility, you need to have a lure that they can see unless you're going to slow it down and keep it in their face longer. If you're going to work your bait at a little higher rate of speed, say you're moving down a bank and you're moving a little faster so that you can keep up the pace or whatever, you need to have something that's got some color and some flash, some noise, something that draws them into your bait.
Now, we got some video. Chris got a GoPro for his birthday, the GoPro Hero 3, so he was doing some video out there, and he got the case, the waterproof case. And he was, I think he had a nice redfish on the line.
Yeah, and really nice red.
Beautiful red, and his partner was out there doing the video and shoved the camera underwater so you could see, and we'll show it while we're talking about this, how you can see how dark the water is right now. Now, where were you fishing? Was that Myakka or
That was on the West Wall. I've been doing a lot of West Wall fishing right now because, like I told you guys before, the fish are transitioning to the beaches. So, you know, and they're actually looking for this bait. And one thing I noticed this week on the West Wall is it's a lake of bait. I mean, it is from one end to the other. I'm talking to the guys on the other side. They said the bait's over there good. So we've got to the time of the summer now that the bait has moved into the harbor and it's thick. I mean, it's everywhere. I wish I could have just videotaped the fish just thrashing the bait. I mean, it was hilarious. The snook on top of the surface just chewing bait.
Well, what do you say? Are you seeing greenbacks, blackbacks, threads?
I am seeing threadies that are like this big. I'm seeing pilchards that are in this number. I'm seeing some bigger threadies that are in this range already. You're seeing baby mullet. You're seeing crabs. You're seeing every type of thing that these fish are eating. It's a smorgasbord. So,
it's this time of year.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's this time of year.
Yeah, that's why the fishing's so good here, guys. Is because we have the bait pods, and where the bait pods are at, it's where these fish are going to be at.
Well, you know, you go down the Gulf Coast of Florida, and you have very few harbors as big as like Tampa Bay, Charlotte Harbor. You get down to Caloosahatchee, Punta Rassa, those big inlets. So when you get into these inlets like Charlotte Harbor, and you get into the areas where the rivers are outflowing now, there's a lot of bait. There's a lot of food.
It's an estuary.
It is.
Let's get real. We breed here. We're the breeding spot.
This is where the really
fish stop at our
starts.
stop, and they look at that and they go, "Oh, there's our I-75 exit. Let's go!" Wow.
Well, you know, you look at all this stuff here on this freshwater lake. It's all going to be flowing out to Charlotte Harbor. A lot of the fish are going to be eating what you see flowing out of here as they wash over the food. Great food. Now, Chris was talking about fish heading out toward the beaches and the, you know, like the intercoastal and the Gulf area. Now, the redfish that he caught was out there on the West Wall, which notoriously has very clean water.
Yeah, they're not moving. The redfish aren't moving. They don't need to go to the beaches right now. Matter of fact, they're all about the creeks and the oysters. So if you find some creeks, you find some oyster beds, you find some good mangroves with oysters around them.
Well, they're tailing now. I mean,
you're gonna find. Oh, they were tailing beautiful. And so the flats that are going down the west wall, I'm sure the flats that are going down the east wall too. These fish had their tails up in the air like this, just waving to us. First thing in the morning, they were saying hi to me for my birthday.
Well, I tell you what, I was talking to Mark Kresek, I should say. I always pronounce his last name wrong.
Kresek.
Sorry, Mark Kresek. And he's easy. I mean, the guy can catch some huge redfish. He's over on the Space Coast, on the other coast of Florida.
Living the dream.
He's lovely. Oh, it's just so beautiful. He's got the, you know, Banana River, the Mosquito Lagoon. I mean, just
Living the dream. That's the other place if you want to go in Florida. You want to go out there and catch some monsters.
Space Coast, beautiful. But he was talking about the tailing, and over there, you know, there's big redfish, and they sit up, and like Chris says, their tails come out of the water, and their
nose goes straight down to the bottom, and they start bumping their nose into the grasses and stuff, trying to get the crabs to release and run.
And the shrimp.
And everything that's down there, shrimp, crabs, minnows, you name it, whatever's in that grass hiding from him or her.
I'll tell you what, Banks Lures, we have, Mark does a lot of stuff for Banks Lures over on the other coast. He's doing a lot of stuff over here now too. And he's got a soft bait. You know, we talk about lures and hard baits a lot, but this is actually a soft bait. And they're calling it the Pimpin' Shrimp. It's a flat bottom shrimp. It's a soft bait shrimp. It's got short legs that actually look like they're planted in the sand, so the shrimp stays flat on the sandy bottom or low grassy bottom.
Like they do. They pop down in the sand to try to hide from these red.
And they hold on so that, you know, they don't get washed away. So now that the reds are tailing like that, that's such a perfect bait. I think he's supposed to have them out in about a month, and I'm going to try to get Ricky to send it. Ricky, you got to send us some of those baits so we could try it here at Charlotte Harbor. The Pimpin' Shrimp is one, and the other is that Flats Creeper. He's got that really cool minnow.
Sure, that would be good to be thrown into a pothole, because when you're around the redfish guys, they're pretty spooky. So what this bait that he's talking about and the characteristics of it, you're going to be able to throw it into a pothole and let it just sit there, not have to even work it, and these fish are going to key in on it, because they're looking for that type of thing. Anything looks like it's indifferent in that white sand hole, all of a sudden something pops up into that white sand hole, they see it, bang, they run right in there to grab it. You're not going to have to pop this thing or do all kinds of crazy motion with it. You're just going to be able to, like almost like betting bass, just flip it in there and just be like,
it is, and the way they work too, like the Flats Creeper, I saw Mark works it a lot, and like he was telling me with a different size hook, you can get it higher, work it slower, keep it lower. Pretty cool, but like now Chris is talking about these holes out here, and
they're right everywhere.
Now, well, you'll hear everybody talking about. You ask anybody that's going to give you fishing advice. Well, it's summertime. You got to find the holes.
Potholes.
Potholes are everything. Only because, and mainly because, I should say, it gets hot. It's really bright, so the big redfish go down into holes where they can stay cooler, out of the sun, and still attack bait from potholes.
Tide comes up and down, guys.
The fish washes through, and here comes the bait.
So when the tide starts going down, these fish instinctively run to a pothole where it's deeper, because they know they're going to be able to sustain themselves until the tide comes back up. Now, a lot of times as the tide's moving, they'll pull off of these potholes and sit in the grass and just look into the pothole like a picture, like a movie you're watching. And if anything comes into it, it's got that nice white background, so anything that goes through it, they can see it. They run in, pop it, and come right back out. It's a great ambush spot for them because they look like the grass. They sit in the grass, they look like the grass, and then they can run into that pothole real quick and bang and bang their baits and set back off of it. It's a great spot to ambush bait, great spot to catch fish.
Absolutely, and also, you know, just to emphasize a little more about the dirty water right now, if you're out there, even around Turtle Bay, again, where it's notoriously clear right now, it's pretty murky, West Wall, the Myakka, you know, all the way down to around Pine Island, those areas, it stays murky until it starts to clear up. But if you're fishing some of those potholes out there, it's nice to have a bait that's got some turbulence to it. When the water's dirty, the fish can't necessarily see as well as they could. Nice clear water.
Noise, you got to have some water movement.
You got to
have something.
And you know, a lot of the baits now, they have these crank baits, different baits that have either rattlers in them. Some have tails that do different, you know, really cool motion.
Yeah, like a jig with a rattle in it, so that every time it hits, it makes that.
It does, yep.
It makes that little tick noise, and it just draws them right in.
Well, you know, there's
something
a variety
different,
of them.
something different than what they're already hearing and seeing.
And secondly, noise and scent. You know, a little Procure. Now, we were talking to Razor Baits. They're down in, I think they're, I believe they're in Punta Rassa, somewhere around South Fort Myers there.
Yeah.
And now they have a garlic scent. And I told them, I believe they're going to send us a couple of their baits and their garlic scent to try.
There you go.
And I saw a couple of pictures that their pro staffers posted in Facebook.
With garlic on the freshwater. I use garlic quite a bit on freshwater.
Folks, I'm Italian. There is no bad use for garlic. There is no bad use.
It gets rid of the bugs, I'll tell you that.
It gets rid of the bugs. It'll cure a cold. It'll get you a date. At least with a good Italian girl. It'll catch fish. Nothing bad comes from garlic. So keep vampires away.
I use garlic in a lot of my cooking. I love to cook, folks, so I use garlic quite a bit. So I love the taste of it. They like that. Anything likes a little flavor with what they're eating. I don't care.
I really don't understand. Honestly, I really don't. I mean, I can understand, you know, crabs and the shrimp scent and the, you know, all the other stuff. But, you know, and garlic it works. I mean, it's probably one of the most popular scents of all is garlic.
I did that the other day with my bait. I took my blue crab and my Procure and mixed my garlic with it, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm calling it my own Italian butt juice, okay? You can hear it now, Procure, but I've renamed your stuff.
We're going to call it the
Italian butt juice, because those Italians love to put crab and garlic and bury them down in their sauce. Or I should say the gravy.
The gravy.
You gotta put it in the gravy. Don't call it sauce if you're in a real Italian. It's the gravy, okay?
Hysterical. Hey, when I first moved down here in 71, nobody knew what spaghetti was. It was all Paschetti, and there wasn't Paschetti. There was no spaghetti. What the hell is spaghetti? But the fish
that was
do like
the kids
the
didn't have front teeth, Frank. They were touching Paschetti, you know. They just didn't have they couldn't pronounce
a little wisp with it. But it does work. I mean, I know Chris has used it. I've never used garlic myself. I just started using ProCure about 6 months ago when you turned me onto it, and never turned back. I mean, the stuff definitely works good. But,
well, I like to use gambler baits a lot of times when I'm in freshwater. They're plastic. To me, has one of the better catch rates for me out there, and they have a strong garlic scent to them. I mean, you pull them out of the bag, you're like, Rrr! I mean, you can smell them. If you leave the bag open, you know that they've been left out. So.
Yeah, they seem to work it now. I noticed that you've been going out pretty early. A couple of mornings you took off 5:30 in the morning, got out there with the sun.
Oh yeah.
Where were you at? What'd you do out there?
Well, like I said, we've been on the west wall this week. Basically, I like to map out whole areas at one time and just see what's going on and see where the fish are moving. And I have recently found out where I've got 3 schools of red on the west wall right now. And I'm talking pretty nice schools of reds that if you go down the wall early in the morning before the lights come on, you can see these fish hump up and move. Whereas once the lights get on and everything starts moving around and the boats start moving around, these fish calm down and get out of the way. They don't want to be in the boat traffic. But in the morning, I was noticing that they were right out on the flat, just moving along, probably 40, 50 reds in a pod.
So you're talking 20, 50 yards off of the shoreline on the shoals.
I'm talking maybe a half a football field off the shoreline.
About 50 yards off.
Yeah, I mean, they were just out there running.
Out,
and you know what? They're running in between the bar, what I'm going to call the bar, the outside of the bar and the inside of the bar, which is a trough that runs along the edge.
I know you like to run that.
There's 2 troughs on the bar on the west wall, guys. Right out by the edge of the bar, there's a trough on the outside and there's a trough on the inside. You got a little hump where you got to cross across. Then you're going to go in probably a football field to where the actual mangroves start, and there's a little trough that runs along, like a little canal that runs right down the edge. You got to know it. Watch out, guys. There's a lot of logs floating down there with all this water flowing out. Just like we caught the tree today, there's a lot of logs floating down there.
I'm going to give you some advice from a person that doesn't have a lot of experience on that side. I actually grew up in Pirate Harbor, so I know that side of Charlotte Harbor. But if you've got a bigger boat, do not try to get over that shawl unless it's on high tide and get out of there before the tide goes out, because you will spend the day on that shawl.
Well, listen, guys, the west wall is this deep, okay?
It's shallow.
And the top
and it's deceptive.
Yeah, it's about a foot and a half deep, even on high tide. So if your boat only takes 12, 16 inches to draft, you might want to park it on the shoal and walk in. Okay, that's the next thing. You just put your boat out there on the edge of the bar, anchor it down, get out of the boat, get your lure going, and start walking. It's only about this deep, only up to your knee. So you just walk and catch fish and let them go and walk and catch fish and just have a blast.
I'll tell you what, now I planned, because Dad's got the bow rider, so I planned a couple of times when I went out there with him and wanted to bring him on the west wall fishing. So, if it's early and we've got an onshore breeze coming and an incoming tide, we'll get up close to the mangroves and drift with the tide and let the wind blow us out. So it's pretty safe. You don't have to, worry about running into the land or getting run up on the bottom. But again, it's very deceptive. So, the dark spots aren't deep water. They're just muddy spots.
Listen, yeah. Well, here's one of the rules of riding the flats, guys. If the water is slick, don't drive over it. Because a lot of times slick water means there's less than 6 inches of water in that spot. And the reason it's slick is because there's not enough water to even get a ripple. So,
and you can see the break on most of that. If it's a little bit choppy, you look about 300 yards offshore all along the west wall, and you'll see that break from the deep water waves.
You'll learn it. You'll definitely learn how to ride. My boat, guys. I mean, my boat will ride in 6 inches of water. It's a really shallow boat. It's a John boat, really wide. Displaces a lot of water. So your skiffs are great for going up and down those flats, because they're flat, they disperse the water. If the boat sits up, it doesn't dig down. Any V-bottom boat's going to want to dig down and ride down through it, which is going to get you into the bottom. Flat bottom boat's just going to skip across the top of it. You hit your waves, you're going to get a little rough, you're going to get a little spritzy on you, some water on you, but you're going to be able to travel in water that's this deep. So
now, again, if you go around the outside, you get down to Cape Ace and you make a way around to Turtle Bay and Bull Bay.
yeah, now you got more water. You got more water down there. If you got a bigger boat, guys, just take yourself into Turtle Bay. You got Gallagher's Cut down there. You got Bulls Bay that's got the big cut in there. Drive yourself in there, fish around the islands where the cut's going. As long as water's moving around it, you got yourself a good chance to catch some fish. We live in paradise.
Well,
these fish don't live at one place. They live all over the place.
And I'll tell you what, Bull Bay and Turtle Bay, those are the old proving grounds of the Air Corps. So way back in the, the 20s
the bomb
and 30s,
holes out there.
They used to have these scout planes that would drop targets right in there, and then the big B-27s would come in and drop bombs and practice.
Yeah.
And because there was nothing out there, so there's some big holes.
Now that's when we're really called talking about the fishing hole, boys. I'm walking across the flat one day with my rod. I got it like this. I'm just holding along like this, and all of a sudden, hat floating.
Did the same thing.
Hat floating.
I did the same thing. I was waiting.
We're talking 8-9 foot hole.
Gone.
And not only did my hat go floating, but boy, it was a weird feeling when I got to the bottom of that hole and there was about 40 fish in the bottom of that hole, all leaving at once with me going into it.
Yep. Well, you ain't lived. You had waders on, the full-size waders.
And then they fill up.
You fill up, and you're in. You go, oh, geez, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Knife. But yeah, it is. I mean, Turtle Bay, Bull Bay, great fishing, some nice holes in there. You got a bigger boat, you can get in there a little bit better, especially on high tide. Be careful anyway.
Yeah.
And even Placida going around, there's great fishing now. Tarpon, I mean, good Lord, the tarpon.
Tarpon are everywhere, folks. If you can't catch a tarpon, you just don't have a crab on.
Well, yeah, I saw a guy in Facebook, he posted a picture of a crab that had been smashed, and said the guy stopped reeling and lost it. And I'm like, yeah, that's tarpon, boy. You get a tarpon on the line, if you're in a boat and you're trolling, because it's the funnest way to catch tarpon.
Yeah, because that way they hook up for you. And you don't have to really mess around with them. Trolling for tarpon, they hook up.
If you're trolling for tarpon and you hook one up, hit the gas. Don't stop and start reeling. Get a little more gas, speed up a little bit, set the hook.
It sets the hook, it gets the fish on the run.
I lost 3 tarpon this year.
It starts the fight. First of all, a tarpon's mouth is harder than the pavement in front of your house.
Big bill, big hard bill.
Big hard mouth. So I mean, it really takes a good hook to slam into that. And by putting the gas on the boat and moving forward, it just drives the hook on in there for you. Then you don't have to worry about it. Then go ahead and just fight, because you might as well be pulling onto a car that's flipping around out of the air.
Yep.
They're fun, guys.
They're a tough, really a tough fish to set the hook in, but once you got one on the line, you better have some rigging that can hold it, or be ready to spend a few hours chasing it.
Yeah, they're mostly fishing 50-pound test, and a lot of line on the spool too. You need some room so that thing can run, quarter of a mile before it decides to slow down.
They will, and I'll tell you what too, the bait's getting a lot better now. Now that the rains are coming, the estuaries are full, the bay, the flats. So if you're looking for the crabs, and they're getting them.
Well, the crabs, guys, let's go to your creeks and wait till the nighttime, and then they just sort of flow out with that outgoing tide. Just sit there and wait for them. They'll come out of the mangroves, and you get them little crabs that are about like that. Hey, they pay $35 a dozen for them down there at the shop right now, and you can't find them because, like we talked about, the guides own that market right there.
Well, when you go into the bait shops, I'll tell you what, you get there early as you can, try to buy what you can. Like you said, this time of year, and I can't blame them. If you're a captain, you got some people down from Minnesota, you got to get them on fish.
Well, you gotta have bait for those people, because they're not used to fishing a lure like we are. I mean, I've learned that you don't even mess around with all that. You just get your lure, you go out and you go fishing. And 90% of the time it turns into catching real soon.
Well, you can catch some nice fish on artificial baits down here, but you know what? I hang around with Chris, so I see what he does. I watch the guys on fishyfins.com. You got Scott, Mark, Bruce is on there, and you see what these guys are doing when they're fishing, when they're using different baits in different ways, and you learn. But when you're a charter boat captain, you got a group down, you got a day or two to fish them, and you want to give them a happy full day. And so you don't see now. There are some, like Mark is doing that on the other coast now. He's doing these fishing lessons. So he'll take you out, he'll teach you how to use a bait, put you on a kayak or a boat, and take you right through the whole system. So that's pretty cool, but you don't see that very often down here.
I pretty much have been trying to figure out how to promote how to go out with somebody for the day, teach them how to use the lure. Then, when it gets a little too hot, we go home, we shower up, go have lunch at the golf course, and finish golfing for the rest of the day. I mean, come on. What kind of a life are we living here when you're living in paradise? We got to do it all, folks.
I was like, Chris, what'd you do yesterday? I know, I was golfing and fishing, and what time was it? Oh, jeez.
They asked me what my schedule was for my birthday. I said waking up at the crack of butt and going out on the water and fishing until it got too hot, then go get a shower and go to the golf course and golf until, oh yeah, that's right, till you shoot a 1 over par for your birthday, baby.
1 over, where'd you play?
That's right, Bobcat Trail, Bobcat Trail.
Oh, Bobcat, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Nice.
That's a tough track, folks.
Nice. It actually should be pretty slow right now. The play, it's pretty wet, so.
Oh, well, you know what? It's really not. Bobcat is one of the drier courses because it's so undulated and it's a tough track. I mean, when he put that together, he put together a track that he was hoping to attract a pro tournament here in town. You know, that's what he was really setting up for.
How's the bass fishing there?
Oh, folks, you don't want to go bass fishing on golf courses because you'll catch 7-pounders. There's some nice ones. I was just doing a job there on the golf course this last week, and I was putting up some netting for them, and every stinking post I went to, a bass would come up behind me because he knew he didn't have my fishing pole. I'm going to tell you right now, if he knew I had my fishing pole, he wouldn't be playing this. But he hit at the shoreline, and then I'd walk down to the next post, and I'd be doing some work on the next post. And he'd come down and hit the next, he'd slam the minnows up on the shore, and I was like, you little sucker.
Drives you nuts.
I'm gonna go home and get my pole, and I'm gonna stop this working stuff.
I tell you what, you know, I do real estate photography, so I'm all over PGI, all the canals out there, and I don't know what it is, but every time you've got your camera in your hand and you don't have a fishing pole, big snook, I mean, even sheephead. I mean, you get up in some of these canals in PGI right now, huge sheephead running along the corners, sand brim, if you like sand brim. I couldn't believe it.
You know what I was thinking about doing, tell you the truth? He gave me a free golf round for St. Andrews over in Punta Gorda.
Oh, that's an old course.
Okay, right? An old course, but they got tarpon in their ponds, guys. I don't know how these things have got they got landlocked in there when they had a flood or something. But these ponds have tarpon. I think I'm going to go out there with my rod and act like I'm golfing.
I'm going to tell you what, St. Andrews, if you're at St. Andrews in Punta Gorda, Florida here, yeah, definitely do now. I'll tell you what happened there. Same thing at Burnstore Marina.
Yep.
Way back years when they put those freshwater lakes in, they weren't put in as golf course lakes, they were put in as overflow retention ponds. So there's these big 3-foot culverts that run about 6 foot underground that go out to Charlotte Harbor.
Yes, they do.
And so they actually, you get a super neap tide or a high tide, it backflows, and you get snook and tarpon that come.
And tarpon love to go up the backwaters because that's where tarpon breed at, guys. They go back up these little tiny creeks. Some of our best, you know, they've figured out that the littlest, tiniest creeks have these little baby tarpon that are about this big, maybe even this big, just loaded with them. So.
Oh, like I say, you know, Burnstore Marina, those canals back there, I was out there fishing with a beetle spin, just trying to play with some little bass one day, and I got a snook, probably about an 18-20 inch snook, pretty little snook out of there.
Those Burnstore lakes, man.
Loaded with snook.
Guys,
and bass are
those
huge.
Burnstore lakes that are out in the end of town, don't get caught fishing out there unless you got permission to. I don't think you can even get permission to fish out at Burnstore lakes. They will arrest you.
I'm going to give you a spot.
I'm
going to give you a safe spot. I grew up out in Pirate Harbor there. Now, the north end of Pirate Harbor is Smoky Joe's. Now, Smoky Joe's is a great canal. It's actually on the line of Pirate Harbor, so it's outside of the community, so you could actually fish there. And it runs all the way out to Charlotte Harbor around the back of Crow Key.
Oh, the old creek.
Yeah, the old creek. Smoky Joe's Creek.
Hold on, guys. This is where my dad used to take me when I was knee-high to a doorknob.
I knew you were.
And listen, we used to go out there.
He has a story for every place in Charlotte County.
We used to go out there. We would park my dad's Datsun out there. We'd load this thing up, and we would literally bring back a cooler full, and all we would use was love allure jigs.
Oh, yeah, the love
cork.
Oh, yeah, love
We'd just wait out there on that flat and just pop and cork them to death, and we'd go home with so much fish to clean and eat.
Well, Smoky Joe's it starts way up by Zemel Road, the back of Zemel Road by 41. If you've ever been out to Scarecrow Farms up there, there's a lake that runs underneath 41. It comes all the way through that center area between 41 and Burnstore Road, and there are some big bass that hang up in this lake. I went up there with a friend of mine, Ken, years ago, and we took a 4x all the way up on the north end of Smoky Joe's. Beautiful bass fishing. And then when you cross Burnt Store Road on the Pirate Harbor side, huge snook come rolling up there.
All of a sudden, yeah.
Just huge.
I was building a pool cage there, and I tell you guys, it wasn't even maybe 10 feet across this creek, because it's a small little creek, right? And I'm up on top of the cage, and I'm trying to finish off a manser corner, and I'm look down, and all of a sudden I see like 10 snook, longer than my leg, all stacked up in this little area where I could just run down there and just start grabbing them if I wanted to. They had nowhere they could go, anywhere. I was amazed at how, and that's the way snook are.
That area has always been that way, and like I said, from Crow Key all the way in. Well, you know, all the keys around Pirate Harbor and north up to Alligator Creek, always loaded with fish. It's just very hard to get in there. Chris could get in there. He's got that nice John boat, so we could zip right in there and do some good fishing.
We'll have to go over there and check that out one day.
I'd love to. Matter of fact, you'll see the kayak guys up there all the time because they can get behind the islands out of the wind.
Well, that's where they should be too, because you know that's what a kayak really is meant for. It's for really going adventuring.
Now, I tell you what, you know, I'm shooting around with my dad. He's got that 20-foot bow rider with the 150 on it, and I've seen some kayakers out there in Charlotte Harbor, and you guys are brave. I'll tell you right now, because there's some idiots on boats out there, and yeah, I mean, you gotta
thank God your kayaks are orange, guys. That's all I gotta tell you.
I mean, even orange. I mean, you even look the wrong way for a second or two, or get one right in the sunlight coming across the water, and it could be a dangerous situation. Well, so you gotta be careful out there.
Keep your eyes open.
Well, the kayakers, they can sneak up on that. That's why they're so good at fishing. I mean, they can sneak up on everything. So it is a great way to fish.
When I had my canoe, I tell you what, I snuck up on more fish than any boat I ever owned. That canoe would just slide right up on those fish before they even knew I was on them. I spooked more fish because I would get right over top of them before they realized I was on them. And then, you know, you get a good bird's eye view of the fish, and then you also know the fish is there. So when you come back, you decide you're gonna go bait fishing, boom, throw it in there, just kick back with the anchor, you know the fish live there.
Well, they're nice. The canoes I've always loved. So, you know, like you said, you could scoot into some pretty thin water and have a good time.
Canoe is a primal boat for our area.
Well, I tell you what, folks, I'm going to get together with Chris. I think maybe tomorrow evening. What do you think? Would you want to do a little night fishing or evening, or what do you think?
I tell you what, let's go fishing all day. How about that?
Okay.
Well, no, let's golf and fish, golf, then fish.
I'll bring my pole. You could golf. I'll drive the cart and fish.
That's a good idea.
That'll work.
You film me golfing, I'll film you fishing. Hey, we'll get this thing done.
That'll work. But we'll get together after we fish. I'll show you some video of Chris up here on, he was up on the west wall. We got some of that.
We caught also too this week on the west wall. We were, one lure that was really hot for us this week was the Daniels, the darter one, the 1006. It's the orange and gold. Really worked good. I tell you what, a very popular bait, man. So you'll see the video on it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, this lure caught trout, flounder, snook, jack.
Now that's a top popper?
It's like a popper. They call it the diver. It's got like a little V in the mouth. And when you pop it like this, you pop that rod down, it almost makes a sound like a trout coming up and popping the surface. And then after it does that, you just give it a little wiggle, and boy, oh boy, watch out. They're unloading on it, so.
Very nice. You know, I haven't seen a bait that Daniels Deceivers makes that doesn't work yet. So
those guys, I don't know how they got so lucky, you know, to make baits that are that good.
Well, I saw his show. I tell you what, his dad did it for years. He's doing it. He's
carrying on his dad's tradition. It's very awesome to see that. A lot of people don't carry on what their father did anymore. I mean, back in the olden times, your dad was a carpenter. You were a carpenter. That's the bottom line. Your family was the carpenters. Well, now you don't find that too much anymore. The kids sort of go off and do their own thing, you know? Like my boy over there at Versante's restaurant. He's got a gorgeous restaurant, a comedy club. He wants to give it to his kids. They're like, nah, thank you, Dad. We got it going on too, Dad.
That's everything. Every generation knows better than the one before.
We're going to make more money than you, Dad. Come on.
But it's tough, you know, like Deceivers, a lot of these guys, like Impact, you know, these a lot of them are like these kind of closed fishing clubs. And, you know, Bill Daniels
the 30-pound snook club boys.
They've been fishing with a small group of skilled anglers for many, many years. And, you know, to get into that closed club is a little bit tough. But
you got to have a 30-pound. Bill's club, guys, back in the day was a 30-pound snook club, okay? You couldn't even get into this club unless you had 30-pound snook. So they didn't even invite you in the doors, talk about your fishing trip. unless you had a snook that was like this deep and like, oh yeah, that's right, that long.
Oh yeah, well we've seen
monsters.
The picture that Richie posted, the ones you caught with actually your
there's big
your
fish here,
fishing.
guys. When you live in paradise, you get these opportunities. Okay, that's how it goes.
Well, if we don't go out on saltwater, I'm going to talk Chris into taking me up to Shell Creek.
Shell Creek,
there.
yeah, let's go do some fresh water.
What are you talking about? Jones Loop, or I'm sorry, Washington Loop. Washington
Loop.
Loop.
Let me think. What's the name of that? There's a ramp out there. Oh gosh, I can't.
Oh, by the trusses, the bridge there. I don't know the name of it.
I can't think of it right now. You'd think I'd know. I go out there enough times. Hawthorne ramp or something like that. But it's out there on the loop. You go past the trailer park. You drive down Washington Loop. You'll go right past the Shell Creek Trailer Park, and right there it is. You turn in there. It's a very nice facility. You got 2 ramps out there. You got a ramp for your kayaks, whole separate area where you got a picnic area and everything for the kayakers, so they don't have to take up the concrete ramp to, you know, go out and launch their kayaks. So sometimes there'll be 20 kayaks at a time out there launching. And then right next door to it, you have the concrete ramp for all the power boats, and then you got some really nice docks out there that you can fish off of. So very, very gorgeous area. I mean, that's one of my favorite areas. I got a buddy who lives on Okeechobee. He lives right on Okeechobee.
Beautiful.
Where's his favorite place to fish? Shell Creek. I mean, he says he'll drive to go to Shell Creek rather than to go right across the street to the biggest, greatest lake in the world, as far as my opinion.
Well, Shell Creek is actually the bottom of the aquifer of Florida, so all that stuff around Lake Placid, Crystal Lake, Okeechobee,
there's 20 natural springs on this thing. You can get in some areas, the water won't be moving, you're just sitting there and you can just see the water flowing off of the bank, and you're like, whoa, check that out. And sure enough, guys, when you get around those springs, it might be 20 foot deep right in that spring. It could be 30 foot deep in that spring. And you throw your worm or whatever over into it, and it just keeps going and going and going. It's like, wow. And I can see why those guys fish shiners out there. Because they can send a shiner in there, and the shiner will just go investigate. And then, you know, when he finds what he's looking for,
it's a goner.
Watch out. The line shakes and everything stops.
Well, it should be cool. I liked it. We've got some baits coming from OSS Custom Baits in Tennessee.
Nice. Those look really good.
Beautiful baits they got. They're going to send Chris a couple to try out, so maybe we'll get them by the time we go to Shell Creek and try them out there. They look sweet.
And another thing about Shell Creek, there's 2 sides of Shell Creek. Shell Creek also flows across to a dam right there. That spillway has got to be exciting right now because, I mean, what are these snook doing? They're just sitting there waiting for all that stuff to go over, and these stinking snook like these things called Picosmuses, the armored catfish,
the sucker fish.
And they sit right there and wait for those things to get blown over, and they'll suck them right down. But excellent fishing. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go. Our area is just excellent fishing all the way around. I interviewed two old guys coming down my little creek here, this little canal system I got. 2 guys that are in their 70s. And each of them, both of them have 12-pound bass to their record, just fishing up and down these little things with a trick worm.
You know, that's all. As a matter of fact, Scott Larson was saying that. We were talking on the phone last week, and Scott likes to hit all the freshwater lakes around. He's up in Pasco County, Florida. And again, beautiful fresh water up there. So if he hits the neighborhood lakes like this, golf course lakes, I mean, big bass held up in them. So, you know, any opportunity to fish freshwater in Florida, usually it's going to produce some nice fish. No doubt about it.
You know, I was thinking, Frank, we're going to have to call Governor Scott and see if we can get a little write-off here for promoting Florida. I think we're promoting Florida now, you know?
I think we're going to end up in the same place as the dog you gave back to the pound.
Oh, that's right. We're not Republicans. Sorry.
I'm an independent. They want you to commit, period. They ain't going to help you out at all. I don't care what the party is. But let's not get into that.
Yeah,
I'll start cursing and.
Political is no way to go, folks. I find that I am of the fisherman generation.
That's not a bad idea.
I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, and I'm not one of those others, okay? I am a fisherman. So if it relates to fishermen, I am voting on it.
I'll tell you what, in Florida, we should start doing that. You want to be governor? The final thing is a slam.
Yes.
Who gets the biggest redfish, the biggest snook, and then you go to office.
Listen, yes, right? Because it's all about the fishing here in Florida. So we need a governor who's all about. And in this governor, I will give Governor Scott a little credit. Not that he's do it, but I mean, I will give it to him. he is promoting the fishing in Florida, which is a good thing.
Yeah, you know, it hasn't been bad. There's been some crazy stuff. You know, anytime you have people that try to do too much all at once, unfortunately, I think they hurt things. We can't always jump the gun and start making laws and rules, and sometimes the enforcement of them does more damage.
Too many laws, too many rules, if you ask me.
Well, you know, I've weighed in on a couple of different things, not too publicly, but, you know, what the hell, might as well. But I don't care what it is, even the pelican issue down in Naples, you know, I think that a lot of things, when we start making laws and rules and outlawing hooks and outlawing guns and outlawing cars, bad idea.
It's bad people make anything that's good bad, okay? And there's good people that can make anything in a good situation. It's just how you handle yourself out there, you know? Yeah. I can take a treble hook and get it out of a fish and take care of the fish, okay? Now you get the next guy who decides to leave the treble hook in the fish or mangle the fish to try to get it out. It's just how you handle yourself.
Well, you know, and this is how I weighed in on the whole Naples thing with the birds on the pier, and they had the pelicans and the triple hooks and this double hook rule. I think it's all crap, honestly. You know, I think that a lot of people who have good intentions really want to do something to help birds, they say, and I think it's hurting the birds. I think it's a bad idea. I think that hiding hooks, going to a double hook, it just ensures that the pelican is going to swallow the hook and the lure and die anyway. I think Bill Daniels, when we were talking to Bill Daniels, we weren't talking about birds or nothing like that. We were talking about making lures. And he was talking about going to a hook that would rust quickly for stuff like tarpon.
Oh no, all of his hooks,
like
he said that's one thing he did. He wanted to make sure he had a good strong hook, but he also went with he's a very eco guy. Have you noticed his shop? I mean, gosh, everything was green, wasn't it?
Everything.
It was
save the
super
plastics,
green, save the planet.
Yep.
He's definitely a good American boy. I like that.
Well, he had the idea with the hooks of going to a hook that rusts, so that if it does get caught in a fishery, you lose it, it rusts out. Now with the pelicans, now say the state had a rule saying you have to have a rusty hook to fish, a rust-prone hook to fish the fishing piers. Now there's a good idea.
I think they do have a law that says that no rusting hook, that old stainless steel hook.
There
and
is
that old
with the gag
aluminum
grouper,
hook.
with the tarpon.
But no, I think they've outlawed that in Florida now. I think they have got rid of that because I don't see it on the shelves anymore. You don't see the hook that doesn't rust out anymore. I mean, it's basically.
Well, I think that if they went to a rule that says if you want to fish a pier that's prone to have birds and pelicans, you have to use a hook that rusts out.
Birds and pelicans, Frank. We're talking Florida. I mean, I can be right here and I can have a pelican show up right here when I'm feeding. I have a pelican show up and watch me while I feed.
The problem is this, and it's happened to me, it's happened to any person that's ever fished a topwater bait or a lure in Florida. If you're fishing it and it really looks like a bait, a bird's going to get tricked, it's going to go for it. Because if it really looks real, they're going to want to eat.
That's their whole idea. You know, God made the birds so they'd eat every day.
Now,
you know?
pelicans are big, clumsy birds. I mean, they are big, clumsy birds, and they don't go up and they don't peck at stuff and nibble at it. They swallow it whole. That's why they have a gullet like that. And that's why I'd say that if you went to a rusty hook, it would be so much easier to have to deal with, whether it's a pelican or another bird that has a hook in its face. It would rust out and be able to, live and go on. If the bird swallows a double hook and it ends up in its gullet or its gut, it's going to die for sure. So I think definitely the rusted hook idea is better than outlawing lures, which is crazy. And at least the birds will actually be able to either get the hook out themselves, we could get it out, or it'll rust out rather than being swallowed. So crazy stuff, crazy laws.
Mama just called. She says, I got to go home.
Oh, well, show's over, folks.
She got to go to the doctor's office, so Daddy's got to go play.
We're going to go fishing, and we'll get back to you after the fishing trip, so see ya.
See ya.